Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to lose everything in a single moment? To watch 3 years of hard work crumble because of one mistake that wasn't actually your fault? What would you do if you discovered that your biggest failure was actually someone else's crime? I'm about to take you inside the most devastating, and ultimately life-changing, experience of my career. This is the story of how getting fired became the foundation of my fortune. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. If you had concrete proof that your employer was systematically destroying careers to cover their tracks, would you have the courage to fight back? Stay with me, because this story has more twists than a corporate thriller. And trust me, by the end, you'll understand why sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to your future. My name is Penny Harper, and Tuesday started like any other day at Lockridge Ventures. I was nursing my third coffee, scrolling through acquisition documents for a software company called Nexus Solutions, when Grant Melvin's shadow fell across my desk like a storm cloud. Harper. Conference room. Now. The way he said it made my stomach drop. Grant was Lockridge's VP of operations, a man who wore expensive suits like armor and fired people the way others ordered lunch. Casual. Efficient. Heartless. I followed him down the polished corridor, past the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. The conference room smelled like leather and ambition. Grant didn't sit. Neither did I. You missed something big, he said, sliding a folder across the mahogany table. A $5 million lawsuit. Buried in the legal disclosures. My blood turned to ice. I'd spent weeks combing through those documents. Every line. Every footnote. That's impossible. I would have caught. Clearly, you didn't. Grant's smile was razor-thin. Pack your things. But as I stared at the lawsuit documents, something felt wrong. The formatting looked different. The page numbers didn't match my notes. What had they done to my work? 20 minutes later, I was carrying a cardboard box past the same colleagues who'd shared coffee jokes with me that morning. Now they avoided eye contact like I carried a contagious disease. Failure, apparently, was catching. The elevator ride to the parking garage felt eternal. My hands shook as I fumbled with my car keys, the box balanced precariously against my hip. 3 years at Lockridge. 3 years of 60-hour weeks, missed dinners, and climbing the corporate ladder one brutal rung at a time. Gone. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the concrete wall. The lawsuit documents haunted me. I knew those files inside and out. Every client disclosure, every regulatory filing, every piece of paper that could make or break a deal. I'd built my reputation on being thorough. Obsessive, even. My supervisor used to joke that I could spot a discrepancy from space. So how had I missed $5 million? The answer hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't. Someone had made sure I would miss it. But who? And why? The parking garage suddenly felt too small, too dark. I needed answers. Back in my cramped apartment, I spread my personal copies of the Nexus documents across my kitchen table. I'd always kept backup files, a habit that drove my ex-boyfriend crazy but had saved my skin more than once. Until now. I compared my original notes with the documents Grant had shown me. Page 247 in my version contained routine regulatory filings. Page 247 in Grant's version. A $5 million class action lawsuit from disgruntled customers. My pulse hammered in my throat. Someone had systematically altered the documents before they reached my desk. But the digital timestamps told a different story. The lawsuit filing was dated 6 months ago. It should have been in my original packet. I grabbed my laptop and started digging deeper. Email timestamps. Document revision histories. Download logs from the shared server. Each piece of evidence painted the same picture. Someone at Lockridge had deliberately scrubbed the files clean before handing them to me. But this wasn't just about me. If they'd done this once, they'd done it before. I was about to stumble onto something much bigger than one missed lawsuit. The question was, how deep did this rabbit hole go? I spent the next 3 days living on coffee and determination, cross-referencing every deal I'd worked on in the past year. The pattern was disturbing. 8 acquisitions. 8 junior analysts who'd missed critical information. 8 scapegoats who'd been quietly fired and replaced. But I had something the others didn't: backup files. By Thursday night, I'd uncovered a systematic scheme. Lockridge's senior partners were deliberately removing damaging information from due diligence packets, letting junior staff take the fall when deals went south. The firm's reputation stayed pristine while careers burned. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Stop digging or you'll regret it." I stared at the screen, my blood turning cold. Someone was watching. Someone knew exactly what I'd discovered. I thought about backing down, walking away, finding another job and pretending this never happened. It would be easier. Safer. But then I remembered the box. The walk of shame. The way Grant Melvin had smiled when he destroyed my career. No. I wasn't backing down. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in 3 years: Ben Cartwright. Ben answered on the second ring. "Penny? This is a surprise. I need a lawyer. A good one. Someone who specializes in corporate fraud." Silence stretched between us. Ben and I had dated briefly in college, a relationship that ended amicably when we realized we made better friends than lovers. He'd gone to law school, I'd dove into finance. We'd exchanged Christmas cards but little else. "What kind of trouble are you in?" His voice carried the careful tone of someone who'd handled too many desperate phone calls. The kind where billion-dollar private equity firms throw junior analysts under the bus to cover their tracks. "Meet me tomorrow. Millennium Park, by the Bean. 1 o'clock. And Penny? Don't discuss this with anyone else." "Not yet." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, wondering if I'd just made the smartest or stupidest decision of my life. Outside my window, Chicago glittered in the darkness. Somewhere in those towers, Grant Melvin was probably sleeping peacefully, never suspecting that his perfect scapegoat was about to become his worst nightmare. But first, I had to survive until tomorrow. Ben looked exactly like I remembered, tall, slightly rumpled, with the kind of intense eyes that missed nothing. He was studying his coffee when I approached the cafe near Millennium Park, but I could tell he'd been watching me for blocks. "You look terrible," he said without preamble. "Thanks. Really what a girl wants to hear." He smiled, the first genuine warmth I'd felt since Tuesday. "Tell me everything." I did. Every document, every timestamp, every piece of evidence I'd compiled. Ben listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sat back and whistled softly. "Jesus, Penny. Do you realize what you've stumbled onto? A career-ending lawsuit? A federal case. Securities fraud. Conspiracy. Wire fraud. If you're right about this pattern, Lockridge has been systematically defrauding investors for years." My coffee had gone cold. "What's that mean for me?" Ben's expression grew serious. "It means you have 2 choices. Walk away and hope they don't come after you for what you already know. Or we take them down. All of them." The weight of the decision pressed against my chest. I thought about my empty apartment, my decimated career, the text message threatening me to stop digging. But I also thought about the other analysts. The ones who'd been fired before me. The ones who'd probably never figured out they'd been set up. How do we start? Quick pause here. If you're following this story so far, and you're wondering how Penny's going to take down this corporate giant, do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button. Also, hit the like button if you're rooting for the underdog. Trust me, what happens next is going to blow your mind, and you won't want to miss how this David versus Goliath battle unfolds. We go to the FBI, Ben said, leaning forward. Securities fraud is federal jurisdiction. But we need more than digital timestamps and backup files. We need someone on the inside. Everyone at Lockridge hates me now. Not everyone. Ben pulled out his phone and showed me a LinkedIn profile. Catherine O'Brien. Senior analyst. Started the same day you did. According to your social media, you two were friends. I studied the photo. Cat with her perpetual half-smile and fierce ambition. We'd shared war stories over late-night takeout, complained about Grant's impossible deadlines, dreamed about starting our own firm someday. She won't help. Too risky. Maybe. Or maybe she's seen things that didn't add up. Maybe she's been wondering why so many good analysts keep getting fired for mistakes that don't feel like mistakes. Ben was right. Cat was smart enough to recognize patterns. The question was whether she was brave enough to act on them. I'll call her, I said. Not yet. First, we set up a meeting with the FBI. Get official protection. Then we approach Catherine. As we walked toward his car, Ben's expression darkened. Penny, once we start this, there's no going back. Lockridge has serious money and serious connections. They'll come at us with everything they have. I thought about Grant's smug smile, about the other destroyed careers, about the text message still burning in my phone. Good, I said. Let them come. FBI Special Agent Patricia Volkov had the kind of presence that filled a room, sharp suit, sharper eyes, and the unsettling ability to see through bullshit from across a conference table. Her Chicago field office was sterile and intimidating, exactly what you'd expect from federal law enforcement. Ms. Harper, these are serious allegations, she said, reviewing my evidence file. Document tampering, securities fraud, systematic conspiracy to defraud investors. If proven, we're talking about federal charges that could put people away for decades. If proven? I tried to keep the defensiveness out of my voice. Your digital evidence is compelling but circumstantial. We need more. Preferably someone currently inside Lockridge who can provide real-time documentation of ongoing fraud. Ben nodded. We have a potential inside source. Another analyst who might cooperate. Agent Volkov's pen clicked against her notepad. Approach your source. But carefully. If Lockridge suspects federal involvement, they'll start destroying evidence and coaching witnesses. We get one shot at this. She handed me a card with a direct number. 24/7 access. If anything happens, anything, you call immediately. Walking out of the federal building, I felt simultaneously empowered and terrified. The FBI was taking this seriously. But that also meant Lockridge's crimes were serious enough to warrant federal attention. This was bigger than my career. Much bigger. Now came the hardest part, convincing Cat to risk everything. I found Cat at Murphy's Tavern, our old haunt 3 blocks from Lockridge. She was nursing a martini and staring at her phone when I slipped into the booth across from her. Holy shit, Penny. I heard about, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think before you answer. Kat's expression shifted from surprise to wariness. Okay. Have you ever noticed anything strange about the due diligence packets? Documents that seemed incomplete or sections that felt off? She was quiet for a long moment, swirling her olive around the glass. The Kingswell acquisition last month. I could have sworn there was a pending EPA investigation in the preliminary files. But when I went back to double-check, it wasn't there. My heart started racing. What did you do? I asked Grant about it. He said I was misremembering, that the EPA thing was from a different deal. Kat looked up, her eyes narrow. Why are you asking? I told her everything. The altered documents, the pattern of fired analysts, the FBI investigation. With each revelation, Kat's face grew paler. Jesus, Penny. If you're right, I could be next. Or you could help us stop it. The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. What would I have to do? Document everything, Agent Volkov explained during our clandestine meeting in a suburban Starbucks. Every email, every conversation, every document that gets mysteriously altered or disappears. We need real-time evidence of ongoing fraud. Kat looked like she might throw up. What if they catch me? They won't, Ben said. You're smart, you're careful, and you have federal protection. Easy for you to say. You're not the one walking back into that den of wolves. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Kat, think about everyone who came before us. How many careers they've destroyed. How many investors they've screwed over. For the next 3 weeks, Kat became our inside eyes and ears. She documented altered timestamps, recorded conversations with Grant, and photographed documents before and after they were revised. Each piece of evidence built an ironclad case against Lockridge's systematic fraud. But on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 month after my firing, Kat called in a panic. They know, she whispered into the phone. Grant just asked me to stay late tonight for a special project. Penny, I think they're on to me. My blood turned to ice. Get out. Now. I can't just leave. It'll blow everything. Kat, listen to me. Whatever they're planning, it's not good. Take your laptop, walk out the front door, and don't look back. The line went quiet for a moment. It's too late, she whispered. Grant's coming. The call went dead. I immediately dialed Agent Volkov, my hands shaking as I explained the situation. Stay calm, she said. We've been monitoring Lockridge's communications. Kat texted us the moment Grant approached her desk. She's wearing a wire. A wire? We set it up yesterday as a precaution. She's about to lead Grant into the biggest mistake of his life. Within minutes, Agent Volkov was patching me into the live audio feed. I could hear Kat's voice, steady despite the circumstances. Sure, Grant. Let's talk in your office about this special project. Grant's response chilled my blood. Actually, let's take a walk. I find these conversations go better away from prying ears. But Kat was smarter than he realized. I'd prefer to stay in the building. You know how rumors start when senior staff and analysts are seen leaving together. 20 minutes later, federal agents stormed Lockridge's executive floor. They found Grant in his office, attempting to bribe Kat with a $2 million severance package in exchange for her silence about any alleged irregularities. Every word was recorded. As if summoned by our victory, Agent Volkov's phone buzzed again. She answered, listened, then broke into the first smile I'd seen from her. That was the tech team. They cracked Lockridge's servers while Grant was busy incriminating himself. Miss Harper, you were right about everything. Systematic document tampering going back 5 years. Dozens of analysts thrown under the bus. Hundreds of millions in fraudulent transactions. Relief flooded through me. And Kat? Safe, sound, and probably the bravest person I've worked with in 10 years. Ben laughed. The first real joy I'd heard from him in weeks. Did she take it? Agent Volkov's smile widened. She recorded the entire conversation. The news broke on a Thursday morning. Major private equity firm charged with systematic securities fraud. Lockridge Ventures stock price crashed before noon. Grant Melvin was arrested at his Lincoln Park mansion while eating breakfast. The federal charges were devastating. Conspiracy to commit securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. The government was seeking $15 million in fines and restitution. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, former colleagues, job recruiters who suddenly remembered my name. But the call that mattered came from Agent Volkov. Ms. Harper, as the primary whistleblower in this case, you're entitled to a substantial reward from the SEC whistleblower program. Based on the fines collected, your settlement should be approximately $2.5 million. I sat down hard on my couch. $2.5 million? You exposed systematic fraud that could have cost investors hundreds of millions more. The government considers this a significant public service. After I hung up, I stared at the ceiling of my cramped apartment. $2.5 million. Enough to start over. Enough to build something of my own. Enough to prove that sometimes getting fired is the best thing that can happen to your career. I picked up my laptop and started typing, business plan for Harper Analytics. 6 months later, Harper Analytics occupied a corner office overlooking the Chicago River. Nothing fancy, just me, Kat, who'd quit Lockridge the day after Grant's arrest, and a burning desire to build something honest in a dishonest industry. Our mission was simple. Provide independent risk analysis for companies tired of getting steamrolled by big finance. No hidden agendas, no document tampering, no throwing junior staff under the bus when deals went sideways. My first potential client meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning. The irony wasn't lost on me. Penny Harper? The receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom. Your 10 o'clock is here. I straightened my blazer and walked to the conference room, expecting another startup founder with big dreams and a small budget. Instead, I found myself face-to-face with Thomas Mitchell, CEO of Nexus Solutions. The same software company from the deal that had gotten me fired. Ms. Harper, he said, extending his hand. I believe we have some unfinished business. My stomach dropped. Had he come to gloat? To threaten a lawsuit? To remind me that my mistake had cost his company a lucrative acquisition? Mr. Mitchell, I can explain, he held up a hand. You don't need to explain anything. We know about the document tampering. We know you tried to flag the lawsuit risk, but your superiors buried your report. You know. We want to hire you. Thomas Mitchell leaned back in his chair, studying me with the kind of respect I'd never seen from Grant Melvin. We've been watching Harper Analytics since you opened. Your reputation for integrity is exactly what we need. I don't understand. I'm the reason your Lockridge deal fell through. No, Ms. Harper. You're the reason we dodged a bullet. That acquisition would have buried us in the same regulatory problems that destroyed Lockridge. You saved us millions in legal fees and years of litigation. Kat shot me a look across the conference table that said everything. Sometimes doing the right thing actually pays off. What kind of work are you looking for? I asked. We're going public next year. We need someone to conduct independent due diligence on our own company, find every potential liability before the SEC and investors do. Someone who won't miss a $5 million lawsuit. I couldn't help but smile. I can promise you that won't happen again. 3 hours later, we'd signed a 6-figure contract that would fund Harper Analytics for the next year. As Thomas Mitchell left our office, he paused at the door. For what it's worth, Ms. Harper, getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to your career. And maybe to ours too. After he left, I stood at our window overlooking the Chicago River, watching boats navigate the dark water. 2 years ago, I'd been a junior analyst living in fear of Grant Melvin's temper. Now I was running my own firm, with federal agents on speed dial and a client who valued integrity over profit. That $5 million mistake. It didn't break me. It built me. Because sometimes, losing everything is exactly what you need to find your real worth. So there you have it, the story of how my biggest career disaster became my greatest triumph. But here's what I want to know. Have you ever had a moment where everything fell apart, only to discover it was exactly what you needed? Have you ever stood up to corruption, even when it felt impossible? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your stories of turning setbacks into comebacks. If this story inspired you or reminded you that sometimes our worst moments lead to our best breakthroughs, show some love by hitting that like button. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into corporate drama and want more stories about people who refuse to stay down when life knocked them out, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I've got plenty more tales of underdogs who turned their failures into fortunes. Don't forget to share this with anyone who needs a reminder that their current struggle might just be setting them up for their greatest success. Until next time, remember, your biggest mistake might be your biggest opportunity in disguise.